Forget the billionaire you see on TV today. Forget the cherry Coke and the gentle wisdom. We need to go back to when Warren Buffett was nobody. By the time he turned 30, he had $1 million in cash. Adjusted for inflation, that is nearly 10 million today. But he didn't get there by picking the perfect stock. He didn't get there by predicting the market. He did it by exploiting a glitch in human psychology. While everyone else was trying to get rich, Warren was doing something else. Something boring. Something painful. Something almost robotic. He discovered that the biggest enemy to wealth wasn't the economy. It was his own biology. He built a system to turn off his emotions. And to understand how he did it, we have to look at his first real obsession. It wasn't money. It was something much darker. He wasn't just frugal. He was fanatical. While his classmates were buying soda, Warren was collecting bottle caps from the trash. He wasn't looking for sugar. He was looking for data. He counted the caps to see which brands were selling the most. He was analyzing the market before he had hit puberty. By age 14, he had saved enough money to buy 40 acres of farmland. He didn't farm it himself. He rented it out to a farmer. He was a landlord before he was old enough to drive a car. Then came the pinball machines. He bought a broken one for $25. He fixed it up. He put it in a local barbershop. He didn't play the game. He owned the game. He took the profits from the first machine to buy a second, then a third. By the time he finished college, he had more cash than his teachers. But the real story begins when he turned 25. He had worked on Wall Street. He hated it. He hated the noise. He hated the suits. He hated the short-term thinking. So he moved back to Omaha. He retreated to a small bedroom in a rented house. He had no office, no secretary, no calculator. He called 7 people to his house, mostly family. He asked them for money to start a partnership, but he handed them a typed sheet of paper. It was titled, "The Ground Rules." The terms were arrogant. Rule number 1, you cannot tell me what to buy. Rule number 2, you cannot tell me when to sell. Rule number 3, I will only tell you the results once a year. This was insanity. Imagine giving your life savings to a 25-year-old kid who refuses to tell you what he is doing with it, who refuses to pick up the phone. Why did they agree? Because Warren understood human incentives better than anyone else. He told them, "If I lose money, I will pay you back a portion of the loss." He took the downside risk personally. He removed their fear. In exchange, he demanded total control. He wasn't building a hedge fund. He was building a fortress, a place where he could think without distraction. He sat in that quiet room for days at a time, reading thousands of pages of annual reports, looking for things other people missed. He wasn't checking stock prices every hour. He wasn't watching the news. He was completely detached from the emotional roller coaster of the world, and that detachment was his superpower. Why is what Warren Buffett did so difficult? Why can't you just copy him? The strategy is simple. Buy good things. Wait, but simple is not the same as easy. The problem isn't the market. The problem is the 3 pounds of gray matter inside your skull. Your brain is not designed for wealth. Your brain is designed for survival. It is designed for the African savanna. It is wired to run from lions and hunt for berries. It is wired to fit in with the tribe. To make his first million, Buffett had to fight 3 specific psychological enemies. Enemies that defeat almost everyone else. Enemy number 1, the social instinct. Psychologists call this social proof. If you are walking down the street and everyone starts running and screaming, what do? You run. You don't ask why. You just run. On the savannah, this kept you alive. If the tribe ran, there was probably a predator. If you stood still to analyze the situation, you got eaten. But in the financial world, this instinct is deadly. When the market crashes, everyone runs. They sell. They panic. They scream. Your brain screams at you to follow them. It feels physically painful to stand alone. Buffett built a psychological firewall against this. He called it the inner scorecard. Most people live by an outer scorecard. They need the world to tell them they are doing a good job. They need the nice car so neighbors know they are successful. They need to buy the hot stock so they can brag at parties. Buffett didn't care that he could drive a beat-up car and feel rich. He could own a boring stock that went down for 3 years and feel smart. He judged himself only by his own analysis. If the math worked, he didn't care if the whole world told him he was wrong. He severed the link between his self-esteem and public opinion. Enemy number 2, action bias. Humans love to do things that we equate activity with productivity. If you see a problem, you want to fix it. If you want to make more money, you think you need to work harder. You need to click buttons. You need to trade. Dopamine hits us when we take action. Doing nothing feels like laziness. It feels like failure. But in compounding, doing nothing is the most powerful thing you can do. Imagine you plant an oak tree. If you dig it up every week to check the roots, it dies. You have to leave it alone. Buffett mastered the art of lethargy. He sat in that room in Omaha and did nothing for months. He read, he thought, but he didn't act. He compared investing to baseball. But in this version of baseball, there are no strikes. You can stand at the plate with the bat on your shoulder for hours. The pitcher throws a ball. You don't swing. The crowd boos. You don't swing. The pitcher throws another. You don't swing. You wait for the one perfect pitch, the one that is right down the middle, and then you swing with everything you have. Most people swing at every pitch because they can't stand the boredom. They can't stand the crowd booing. Buffett made boredom his weapon. Enemy number 3, hyperbolic discounting. This is a fancy term for a simple flaw. We value today much more than tomorrow. A slice of pizza today is worth more to our brain than a six-pack of abs next year. $1,000 today feels better than $2,000 in 5 years. We are blind to the future. Buffett had a bizarre relationship with time. He didn't see money for what it could buy today. He saw what it could become. There is a famous story about him going to a barber. The haircut cost a few dollars. Buffett thought, do I really want to spend $300,000 on a haircut? He wasn't crazy. He was calculating the compound interest. He knew that $5, invested at his rate of return for 40 years, would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every time he spent $1, he felt the pain of losing its future potential. This is why he lived in a modest house. This is why he drove a cheap car. He wasn't being stingy. He was being mathematically rational. He had the ability to vividly feel the future. He treated his future self as if it was his present self. Most people steal from their future self to satisfy their present self. Buffett starved his present self to feed his future self. He understood that the seed is not just a seed. The seed is the forest, and you do not eat the seeds. Here is the counterintuitive truth. Warren Buffett did not become a millionaire by being an optimist. He became a millionaire by being paranoid. We live in a culture that worships manifesting and positive thinking. We are told to visualize success. Buffett visualized failure. He didn't focus on how much money he could make. He focused entirely on how much he could lose. This is the most critical lesson of his early years. He understood the brutal math of loss. If you have $1,000 and you lose 50%, you are left with $500. To get back to $1,000, you don't need a 50% gain. You need a 100% gain. Losses are much harder to recover from than gains are to make. One bad decision can wipe out 10 years of good decisions. So, Buffett didn't look for home runs. He looked for sure things. He looked for situations where the downside was zero. He refused to gamble. If he didn't understand a business, he didn't touch it. If the price was too high, he walked away. He was willing to look stupid. He was willing to miss out on the next big thing. While others were getting rich quick on risky bets, Buffett stayed on the sidelines. He knew that eventually, the risky bets would blow up. And when they did, he would be the only one left standing. He realized that survival is the only thing that matters. You cannot compound if you are broke. This leads to the second deep insight. Intelligence is not the same as temperament. There were people in the 1950s with higher IQs than Warren Buffett. Mathematicians, economists, scientists. They knew more data. They had faster processors in their brains. But many of them died poor. Why? Because they had an ego. They felt the need to prove how smart they were. They tried to predict the unpredictable. Buffett killed his ego. He created the concept of the circle of competence. He drew a circle around the few things he understood perfectly. Newspapers, chewing gum, furniture. If a tech company or a pharmaceutical stock fell outside that circle, he ignored it. It didn't matter if everyone else was making money on it. He said, I don't know. Most people are terrified to say, I don't know. They think it makes them look weak. Buffett knew that admitting ignorance is a superpower. It kept him safe. He didn't try to jump over 7-foot bars. He looked around for 1-foot bars that he could step over. He made getting rich look easy because he refused to do anything hard. And finally, the deepest realization of all. Money was not the goal. Money was the byproduct. If Buffett loved money, he would have spent it. He would have bought the yachts and the mansions the moment he hit his first million. But if he had done that, the compounding would have stopped. He didn't love what money could buy. He loved the game of capital allocation. He loved the puzzle. He kept score with money, but he didn't play for the prizes. This is why he could live in the same house for 50 years. This is why he could eat the same breakfast every day. He was already satisfied. He wasn't running on a treadmill of desire. He was free. And because he didn't need the money to be happy, he was able to keep it. He mastered the art of having money without letting the money have him. Here is the bad news. It is harder to be Warren Buffett today than it was in 1950. Buffett had an advantage you don't have. He didn't have a supercomputer in his pocket designed to destroy his attention span. He didn't have a 24-hour news cycle screaming that the world is ending. He didn't have an app that showers you with digital confetti every time you make a trade. You are living in a financial casino. Every notification on your phone is a trap. It is designed to trigger your action bias. It wants you to click, to scroll, to buy, to sell. The algorithm is weaponized against your patience. It feeds you stories of 19-year-old crypto millionaires. It shows you the outer scorecard of strangers on Instagram, the cars, the watches, the vacations. It triggers that primate instinct to keep up with the tribe. It makes you feel slow. It makes you feel poor. So you take risks. You try to speed up the process. And that is how you lose. Buffett's superpower was isolation. Your challenge is filtration. In a world of infinite information, the edge is not knowing more. The edge is ignoring more. Real wealth today requires a information diet. It requires the ability to look at a flashing screen and feel nothing. To see your friends getting rich on a hype bubble and feel indifference. The modern version of Buffett's inner scorecard is the ability to be boring. To buy index funds when everyone is buying memes. To drive a 5-year-old car when you can afford a new one. To be the person at the party who has nothing exciting to say about the market. In a world addicted to dopamine, patience is the ultimate rebellion. Wealth is what you don't see. It is the car you didn't buy. It is the trade you didn't make. It is the compounding happening silently in the background while you live your life. If you can master the art of doing nothing in a world that demands you do everything, you have already won. Warren Buffett is not a wizard. He is simply a man who conquered his own nature. He realized that the gap between poverty and wealth is not just about capital. It is about character. You do not need a higher IQ to build your first million. You do not need inside information. You do not need to be a genius. You simply need to be more disciplined than the mob. You must be willing to look foolish while others look smart. You must be willing to be bored while others are entertained. You must be willing to be lonely while others follow the herd. The first million is the hardest, not because the math is difficult, but because you have to become a different person to earn it. You have to fight millions of years of biological programming that screams at you to consume, to panic, and to conform. Most people will never win this fight. They are prisoners of their own biology. But if you can win the war inside your head, the war in the market becomes easy. Once you master the behavior, the math takes over, and the math never lies. If you want to master the hidden psychology of money, if you want to decode the human behavior behind the billions, hit that subscribe button. We don't chase hype here, we chase truth. Welcome to the minority. This content is for educational purposes only.